Hello, Lothar here. This is a video, probably been a long time in the making. It's I was trying to put together all the spares that the kit I might use or have on standby during my thru hike. Now a lot of this stuff is going to be basically stuff I've had on the shelves for many years that I've gathered up. And I suddenly thought, it might be useful to people who are maybe in different circumstances, have different types of kit I have, and some of the things I might point out might be useful to you. So I'm going to dive straight in. This is obviously, don't worry, this is not stuff you need to do through hike, but it's stuff you may have lying around through your years of hiking that you might want to have spares, or it might resonate with stuff you might want to buy just to have on standby. So I'm going to dive straight in. I've been hiking for many years, so the one things that I've gathered up is lots of shelters and lots of different types of camping equipment. So the big one for me is I had a duplex tent. Now, if I ever lost that due to wind damage, or if it was torn or shredded, or for any reason, what would be my backup shelter? Now, I have done pretty much from cowboy all the way through to heavy canvas, all the way through down to tarps, so the full spectrum of different gear that you might have. So on standby, I had, just in case I lost my tent, a Cuban fibre tarpaulin, which is just a basic, very lightweight tarpaulin. Got that from, I think that came from Z-Packs, but yeah, very, very lightweight. And combined with that, I had an inner. Now what that is like a bug nest with a basin, so it's almost like an inner of a tent, and this is basically the size it folds down to. This is not exactly the same bag, but this was I think it's a 6 Moon design bug nest that you can hang underneath your tarp, such that you had a full shelter, and then you could sort of pitch the tarp in different ways depending on what the wind conditions were. So that was my backup. Other stuff I had on standby was for my tent, I also had a liner. Now this is material that hangs inside the roof or underneath the roof of my duplex. Now it's a material like this. It has little toggles on it that you can clip it onto the inside of the roof, and it covers the 2 panels inside your duplex. And what that does is, it in conditions where you have very cold weather and you're expecting lots of condensation, this gives you effectively a double layer roof, and the idea is it then limits the condensation that you'd suffer, particularly in very humid conditions or very cold conditions. Now I had it on standby, didn't use it. I think I probably used that maybe on the AT. But again, if the conditions changed for some reason and I was out in cold weather for long periods, particularly the Sierras, I might have used that, because it just stops you getting a layer of ice forming on the inside of your tent from your breath condensing and then freezing on the inside of the tent. Luckily I didn't need it. In standby I also had the silk liners, these mummy bags that you can use for either your sleeping bags or your quilts. And the idea behind these is you basically use those to basically keep your gear clean. Doesn't add any particular warmth factor to it, and in practice didn't need it. They're normally, if I do short trips and if I was expecting to get very, very dirty, would I use that? But nope, didn't need it. Now one thing I did have on standby in my bounce box, and this is the thing I was bouncing along down trail with me, so I had stuff geared with me at all times, was replacement guy lines. Now the reason I had that was simply the fact that when sometimes early in the mornings you find that little bunnies will come along and sort of nibble on your guy ropes of your tent, and you'll find that in the morning some of them are frayed. It doesn't happen very often, but when it does, it's really annoying. So I had that in my spares box, such that if I got to my next town and I picked up my spares box from the post office, I could then just replace the guy lines very easily. Very easy to do. I had lots of little straps. Now these are little straps that for repairing attachments of pockets to either my backpack or little straps and clips that relate to my tent. I just happened to have spares sets of those. Had them in my spares box. I needed to replace one clip, but yeah, nice to have. It's just, you can always do it on trail. You can always bodge it on trail. But if you've already got the kit lying around and you've already bought it, from years ago, why not have it in your spares box? I also had a spare, I think called fanny packs in America. We call them bum bags in England. I had a spare one of those from hiking, so this is a replacement one from my thru hike. This just had it on standby. So a lot of the stuff I had at home ready to go if someone sort of if I found that I needed the kit. I didn't need to bounce it all the way through, but I could, maybe wait a few days for the post to get it. Another thing I had, again, these are things from lying around from over the years. I had spare pockets for my backpack. So these are the ones, maybe on the shoulder strap I had some pockets here, and I had some extra pockets on my hip belt. Now it just happens from my old backpacks, I still had a couple of shoulder pockets and belts, hip belt pockets that I could then, even though they were battered, they were nice spares. So for any reason on trail I needed to get some sent to me, again I already had them, so had them on standby. Other stuff I had was repair tape. Now this is just invaluable stuff. This is this is basically rolls of seam seal tape. Now it's the sort of stuff you'd see on the inside of a waterproof, but it's a tape that you can. It's very sticky. Adhesive, sticky. It's like sticky. The sticky. Was it sticky? This is the stick insect that's stuck on a sticky bun, as we say in England. As a joke. So it's like this sort of stuff here. I don't know if you can see there, but it's just a material that's very strong, that allows you to, if you've got something fraying, or if you've got a tear in either your jackets or your tents, then it's a great piece of sort of material to have on standby. So I carried a roll with me as I was going along on trail, but I also had a couple of rolls of spares in my spares bounce box, because it's such useful stuff. I also had some square patches of the stuff. So this is, so if I had larger tears, I had a couple of those with me, and yeah, it was just one of those pieces of kit that I'm very glad I had with it. And it's surprisingly useful. So I've got loads of this stuff, just for not just for tents, but for any sort of gear where it's a bit like if you like tenacious tape. I found tenacious tape is it's good for strengthening things, but I love the fact that this stuff is the seam stuff is just a little bit more flexible. And if you want to put a double layer on, It's easy. What else did I have on standby? Well, I don't know if I mentioned in the previous video, I settled on a different sleeping pad. I had a Xtherm ProLite Plus, Thermarest ProLite Plus, which was my settled final sleeping pad. Had Xtherm, which is the R5 rated, on standby as well. I had a couple of these again at home on standby if I needed them. Had another one of these. This is the 1/8-inch pad from Gossamer Gear. Now this, people sort of say, why use this? There's nothing special about Gossamer Gear one. It just happens to be a piece of foam that's body length, so it stops your sleeping pad lying around. It's useful for a sit pad. It's useful for if you've got a frameless pack, you can use this to maybe stop something rubbing. I occasionally used it if I had it on my hip belt. I just used it as extra padding around my hip. I also mentioned in the previous video, I actually cut some insoles out. So basically, I made 4 of them, such that I had double layer inside each shoe, and it just allowed me to sort of get to the next supply station, so I could put some new insoles in. But it just shortened the pad by a little bit. I could still use it, and it still stopped my sleeping pad lying around from sliding around, and it's very cheap. Also had a spare sheet of Tyvek on standby. Again, Tyvek you can always normally get hold of, but again I've got it, so I had it on standby, waiting at home if I, for every reason, my ground sheet of my tent needs to be replaced. I could just ring up someone at home and say, right, it's not in the bounce box, could you just send that Tyvek sheet up? Had some of these temp pegs. I used the MSR groundhogs actually. Didn't actually need any spares because I kept finding them as I was camping. So for those of you who are leaving them for me when I was hiking along, kept coming across temp pegs, thank you very much. My advice to you is don't forget, when you pack up, count your pegs. It's really frustrating when you find you're one short. I always found I had one too many. Right, other gear, let's move on. Let's move on to some of the clothing again, or sort of other wearables I had. So as I mentioned, I had spare insoles. Now these are the spare orthotics I had. I had to replace them every so often because they do harden up after a while. They do have compression, but over a period of time. So I probably went through about 3 sets of orthotics, I think it was in total, for my thru hike. What else do I have? I'm just looking. I had my neoprene booties. These are the things that I used in the Sierras when it was getting cold and snowy. Knew my feet was getting cold. These don't keep your feet dry. Your feet do get wet and they soak through, but because you've got neoprene against the skin, it's a bit like a dyed wetsuit. It keeps your feet warm, and they save my feet from becoming ice blocks. Other stuff I had, shower gloves. Yeah, now you'll hear lots of people talking about these sort of gloves from I think they're recommended by Andy Skirker and others. There are different types. This one here is just basically the large. This is the Temres TEMRES 281s. So this is the raw rubber glove that you would then probably use over a possum down gloves. I think they're like Z-Packs. The other ones that you can also get are the Temprez 282s. Now the difference with there is these have this rubber, but they also have a fur line inside, and I'm actually trying these, so saves having a second set of gloves. But yeah, interesting idea. Had those on standby. I had a spare one of my favourite hiking shirts. So this is a Nike dry fit, 86% polyester, 14% elastane. Had to do the maths there quickly. Yeah, dry fit from Nike, long sleeve, had thumb hooks on the sleeves. My favourite shirt, and see, I'm wearing another one here. Absolutely fantastic. It lasted all the way through my thru hikes. I swapped out occasionally with the Columbia shirt, but yeah, my favourite. It wicks very well, it dries very well. Does start to smell a bit after a while, but it's still very, very good. Other stuff I had spare Darn Tough socks. Now, Darn Tough socks are a bit frustrating because they have this guarantee whereby you can supposedly take them into stores and get them replaced if they're damaged in some way. Unfortunately, a lot of the stores on trial don't normally honour that unless you've actually bought the socks from that particular store, which is a bit illogical because you then means they've either failed straight away or you've had to go back to that store to hand them in to be replaced. So what I do is I sort of get my damaged socks, shove them in my spare boxes, I swap them out, and then at the end of the hike I just sent, I think, 6 or 7 pairs back to Darn Toughs, and they replaced 5. So pretty good. What else I had? Oh, yeah, coming back to socks and booties. The other thing you might consider using are sealskin waterproof socks. Now I've got these as well over the years. Now these are basically they are waterproof. The problem with these is that they're great for short hikes, short trips where you know after a while you can dry them out, because at some point they're going to get wet, and they're going to get wet inside. So for a thru hike, useless in my opinion. I'm sure other people love them, but once they get wet, they never really properly dry out. I had a spare set of gaiters, Dirty Girl gaiters, and these are the popular ones. Thereby you just basically keep the dust and dirt out of your shoes, and they use Velcro to sort of attach around the back of your shoe so they don't come off. I had a spare pair because through section hiking they wear out. I only use 2 sets of Dirty Girl gaiters. They're really good, but you can repair them, but it gets to a point where you get them so shredded after a while that it's easier to replace them. And I had a spare set. You can probably buy them down trail, but I had a spare set, so I showed them in the spares box. Other things like this is just a bag full of bandanas, a spare set of sun gloves. I also had these armbands from mountain biking. Now these things are basically things tubes you put over your arms to stop sunburn. That's if you like wearing short-sleeved hike shirts. So again, personal choice, but again, kit I have on standby if I ever needed to swap out. Had a spare Patagonia Houdini windproof jacket. Love these so much through hiking. I had a spare. I can't get enough of this thing. This is probably my second most, after my shoes, this is probably my second most used piece of kit. Love those. Love the idea of that. The way the wind jacket works. It's coming from Europe. You looked at those. You probably look at those wind jackets as a bit of a waste of money, but it's something that's just an extra layer that you find on thru hike. You use an awful lot. Fun enough, just checking out. I just had a spare pair of bottom down gloves for some reason, and a spare pair of sort of hiking gloves. Now these are ones that have the little pads on that allows you to use your phone. So that if you've got a capacitive touch screen on your phone, you don't need them, but again, had them on standby anyway. Right, what else? I had my cold weather gear on standby. So these are my merino wool long johns from Icebreaker. So they were very good. I also had a merino wool sleep spare top as well. Now I love merino wool for hiking, but its durability for thru hiking is pretty lousy, so I didn't use it for long distances. I used it maybe for sleep gear, but I wouldn't use it on a long hike, or certainly not a thru hike. Right, other gear I had, let's get to some more of the other knickknacks. I had a Talenti jar. That was if I was doing any cold soaking. I hate cold soaking. Great for short trips. If I want to go gung ho, and if I was 20 years younger, I would probably go ultra lightweight, which I actually found enough thinking about. I used to go very lightweight with basically a tarp and cowboy camping and cold soaking. Again, once you get older, you want your little comforts, and it comes down to the fact that if you want to do a hike and you want to be super light, ultra light, and worry about just reducing the weight and live with the consequences of the fact you're going to be a little bit colder, you not have the comforts. That's your personal choice. I kind of in the middle of the road over the years. I've gone through from heavy gear and super ultra light gear back to sort of middle of the road. Because I like my comforts, but I did it in 110 days, 115, 114 days with stops on the PCT. Didn't mean to go particularly fast, but everything felt really, really good. But it also shows that you can still go mid-weight and still do a reasonably good time. And thinking about it, I could probably shave another 5 days off that quite easily if I put my mind to it. But I actually wanted to enjoy the hike. So other stuff, just going through again, no particular order. Head net, this is for buggy situations, so I had that on standby once I came out of the Sierras. Actually some years you might need them in the Sierras, because as you come out into passes, and if it's particularly hot, maybe in July or August if you're going through there, then yeah, you could probably get some bugs, certainly on southbound. Had a knee brace. This is the show pattern knee brace I mentioned in previous videos. It has Velcro straps that you can adjust the tension top and bottom, above and below your knee. Had it on split standby, didn't need it, but as I said in previous videos, I used orthotics and they corrected my gait, so I didn't need my knee brace. Very, very, very lucky there. Other stuff I've got, I'm just pulling out, no particular order. I had spare tablets. Now these are basically waterproof Puritab tablets. If for any reason my water filter failed, I had a couple of spares sets of different tablets, so allergy tablets, anti-diarrheal tablets, and some ibuprofen. Had that in my spares box. Now you may be surprised that actually on 2 separate occasions going through North California and in Oregon, I couldn't get 2 stops. I couldn't get ibuprofen. I was thinking, this is insane. I mean, it's the most common drug in the world, but they were all sold out. So if anyone tells you that it's easy to resupply on trail, it isn't a lot of the time, because you got to remember, you got, if it's a big year, you got 40 or 50 hikers a day going through those places, buying up probably all the similar stock that you want to buy. So yeah, it's, I think unless you get to the really big towns or Kennedy Meadows South, where they're very well stocked up, a lot of stores that's on the trail don't assume you're going to get what you want, no matter what people say. Oh, it's easy to resupply. It's easy to resupply if you're willing to be very, very flexible. Now, not being able to buy ibuprofen, I think, is fundamental. But anyway, another thing to mention about ibuprofen, how I used ibuprofen is probably worth mentioning here. Now I'm not a medical doctor. I'm a research physicist, but I use and used to do lots of sport and training. I used to be a long distance runner. I used to do marathons. I used to do competitive events with endurance events. Also orienteering and stuff like that. Now, through doing those sorts of events, I would use ibuprofen occasionally as pain reliever due to inflammation. Now, when I would finish a day of a long hike, if I did a really hard day, and I hate taking tablets normally, and I knew I was going to feel those pains and aches first thing in the morning after a long sleep, what I would probably do is at the end of the day, I'd probably bite half a tablet, one of the low dose tablets, and just swallow that with a meal. And the idea of that is to just reduce a little bit of the inflammation. So in the morning, when you'd feel the full inflammation, I'd not popping, say, 2 tablets to deal with the inflammation. I would actually try and anticipate the inflammation. Now, I spoke to a couple of physios, and they said they wouldn't disagree with that. And I'd be very interested in if there's a medical hiker doctor, not just a medical doctor, saying what are the standard rules of ibuprofen. Somebody who says hiking, is taking preventative ibuprofen before the onset of the reinflammation is a good idea? I'd love to if someone could comment on that and just let me know if that's a good idea. But that's what I tend to do, and I use a very little amount of ibuprofen. Yeah, that was, I think it's called vitamin I on the trail. But anyway, back to the spares. I had a spare Knock water bottle. Now this was when I was using the soya squeeze. So again, in the previous video, I had a soya squeeze at the start, and I switched to the Catadine B3 filter, which is basically a 1 litre bottle and a filter like that. These don't last as long, but they filter faster, so I went for the speed. Now through the hike, I was carrying one of these, and in my bounce box I had literally another spare bottle and a filter, and then as I went down the trail, I would just buy replacements of these, and I think I used 3 maybe 4 of these in total towards the end of the hike. Again, you could do it with maybe 1 or 2, but the thing is the flow rate dramatically reduces with these guys. But yeah, very happy with that. So had those in my spares box. Spare Ziploc bags in my bounce box. This is something that doesn't get mentioned very often. O-rings for your stove. You know that where the stove screws onto your gas canister. Had a couple of spare of O-rings, such that if it wears out, these are actually surprisingly hard to get hold of. So I had a couple of spares from, again, many years. Other thing I had some cleaning tabs. Now these are the tabs that you use if you want to clean up your smart water bottles. You just basically pop one of those tablets, shake it up with water, and it sort of fizzes and cleans up your water bottle. Spare bandana, another thing I had. Zip lubricant. So this is I had in my bounce box. So every time I did a stop, I would clean out the zips and basically grease the zips for my tent and gear like this, and they lasted all the way through. Had a spare head torch. Didn't need it. That's just a Petzl E-light I had lying around, such that if for any reason I couldn't get, I lost my head torch, I had that in my bounce box. Had a spare 5,000 milliamp hour battery pack. There are better ones now, but this is the one I had on standby in my bounce box. I think I mentioned previously before, I have a spare set of headphones, and these are the headphones that have this little loop that go over the ear, and what I would do is hang that there, and then this would go the back of my neck, and then one would dangle down, and then another day I might swap them like that. But again, this loop just meant that it was going to stay on no matter what. Very happy with those. They're Anchor Sunbud Curves, I think they're called, but some people like the basic earpods. Had some cable ties, they're lying around. I had some spare Pure tabs I mentioned before. These are, again, if for any reason my water filter died, and it was a couple of days before I got back to civilization, I'd carry a little small tab of those so I could purify my water. Had a moleskin blister repair kit, didn't need it. I had a mirror. So again, I mentioned in previous videos, you as a hiker, I was always taught carry a whistle, but also carry a little signalling mirror. Now I use that primarily for a saving mirror, but this is a basic signalling mirror, which is surprisingly, let's get it on the camera, even in a plastic bag, it's very, very good. Again, this is just a spare one I had. I had actually hiked with one half the size of this, and there was a situation when I was hiking around Whitney where they had a lost hiker, and had he had a mirror, there were 2 rescue helicopters looking for him at the time. He could have just done that. Oh look, isn't that great? And you can shave as well. Anyway, this was my spare one. What else? What have we got? Some spare straps for my quilt. So this just happens to be the straps that go around the quilt that hold it onto your sleeping pad. If you lost one of those, again, I just had some spares on standby back at home. And I also had in my bounce box, this was more important, this was a strap that is not only a cinch strap but also a clip strap, such that if for any reason my backpack, my hip belt was damaged or my shoulder strap, I had a reasonably durable strap that I could do an on-trail repair, and that was in my bounce box. Luckily didn't need it. I know a lot of hyperlight mountain gear people who probably did need it, who kept having shoulder straps breaking here all the time, which was insane. So as I mentioned before, hyperlight mountain gear, if you're going to go for a backpack with hyperlight mountain gear and you're going to go through the Sierras where you're going to maximise the weight and probably overload it, I'd probably go a size bigger, because I think they're whatever weight loadings they're using on their straps or recommending is you're going to overstress it in the Sierras, and to see all these straps come off the shoulders on the hyperlights, insane. But anyway, I had a spare stove. Now this is a spare I think it's an old style, it's not an old style MSI, it's not a pocket rocket, but had it lying around, had it on standby if for any reason, didn't need it. Some more spare pockets which I had for different gear. I had a couple of spare MSR sorry, these are I think 6mm designs. Granite gear, sorry, this is a spare food bag if for any reason I needed it. Had that standby. This is a spare electronics bag, has semi-waterproof. Had a spare sun umbrella. Now I actually carried a full-length sun umbrella. And the idea of that is that it was great in the desert, it was great where you had rain, and I carried it all the way through, and I was very happy I did, because I'm British. I had the small version. I carried the full length one, this is about this long, and you can put it down the side of your backpack. The replacement one I had on standby, this is my Montbell, these are the ones that fold and then fold again. Much more flimsy. I'm glad I didn't replace this one because this probably wouldn't have lasted 30 seconds on the trail. But the full length one, very happy with that. What else do I have? Oh, I had a sleeping pillow. This is a Trekology one. I tried various pillows over the years. I didn't actually need it because I've always cobbled together a pillow with just basically a bag stuffed full of my clothes. But anyway, had those on standby if I ever needed it. Had a spare spoon. Had a spare clip for my. Now this is a clip that you use for if you want to clip your sun umbrella to your backpack, so you can be hands-free on using your trekking poles. I actually tend to hike normally with one trekking pole, sometimes two, but I never actually had this on. I'm sorry, I never used this, but I had this on standby if I needed it. Other stuff I had. Had an Anchor 20. I think it's a 21 watt 3-panel solar panel. Had it at the start just to try it. They're great if you're doing lots and lots of stops, like if you're doing lots of photography or something like that, and you can lay it out in the sun for a couple of hours and charge everything up. Having it hanging off your backpack and sort of changing orientation relative to the sun, it's sort of charge, no charge, no charge. It's not very effective at all. If you want to do that, that's great. But I think if you're doing planning lots of stops through your hike, then the solar panel might be a good idea. Wasn't for me, but it had on standby. Looking at this, paper maps. I think I've said in previous videos, these are great in terms of if the weather's great, everything's going well, you can open them up, and the resolution is not very good. It's you can sort of, there's a mountain over there and a mountain over there. If you're ever lost in bad weather, trying to look at terrain and try and navigate through mist, or if you're in cloud cover, I'm sorry, these aren't very good. I think the half-mile maps were much more of a practical resolution in terms of being able to navigate yourself out of difficulties. These are nice to have if everything's going well. They are the only ones available. I think you could probably get the old legacy PCT half-mile maps, but if you're doing any serious orienteering or serious navigation, this is nice, but I'm not a fan of this resolution. I think it's poor. I think we can do better. What else? I had a head torch again, another spare head torch. It's a night core. Again, more spares than I have out my drawers. I had. This was actually something I should mention. I had lip salve, spare lip salve, which is a flavour I liked. I had a spare DEET stick, which is anti mosquitoes. I also have one of these, and this is a Stingies or afterbite stick. Now the reason why that is in certain places where it's very high mosquito rates and you're going to get bitten, I found that I couldn't sleep very well, with all the bites. I was scratching, so I actually started just dabbing this on the bites, and lo and behold, I got a night's sleep. So I actually used every time I had the head net, I had that afterbite stick with me as well. So you can stop the bites, but you can't stop every bite. What else? From spares, I had a Sunto hiking watch, altitude and barometer. This is great if you really like this kind of things and you're doing a short hike. So if I was just going up a mountain, I might wear this. On the through hike, you don't need it. And the other thing I found frustrating with this, certainly with wearing or using trekking poles, was that if you wear it in your hands going like this all the time on trekking poles, guess what? You get a very sore wrist due to the watch just catching on your wrist. So nice to have. In practice on a through hike, don't need it. I had a wallet with digital copies of all my papers and my passport and my ID, so that's a copy, and I also had a USB stick with some digital data on it in my bounce box, so if for any reason I lost that. I had a spare smart water bottle tops. Can never have too many of those. I had coming back, compass. I had a stack on standby. Again, in practice, didn't need it because I personally had the InReach Explorer Plus and the Guttux and a button compass, and quite frankly, you can't really navigate in any high degree of accuracy in bad weather with these things. So having a compass like this is great, gives you confidence, but make sure you know how to use it. I was sufficiently happy not to have to carry this, not that compass anyway. What else? I had lock laces, spare set of lock laces. These are the things you use in your shoes to replace some normal laces, and again they're sort of elasticated. Really love these, and they normally last 2 pairs of ultra lone peak shoes before I have to throw them away. I had a sewing kit. Again, that was just for more repairs. Oh, there's the soy squeeze that I had. Again, if you remember the soy squeeze, you have a syringe that if you want to backflush. Some people carried it, some people had the syringe in their bounce box and they would backflush when they were in town. Other stuff I had, and another blister kit, didn't need it. All these things. Now, this is one thing I did use quite a lot. I mentioned this in previous videos. This is the ingrown toenail pain reliever kit by Dr. Scholl's. Now, what this is basically if that's your toenail, along the edge there, because your feet's getting compressed half the time, you get the sensation of ingrown toenails along the edge of your nails. And what this does is just a gel that you squirt in a sort of a plaster, which has a line in it that you can fill it up with this gel and leave it overnight, and it softens the nail such that you can clip the nail in the morning and stops you needing to go to the doctor. I never had ingrown toenails, but only when I was hiking I had the strong sensation of it, and now I've stopped hiking. Don't get the sensation anymore. So what else? I had a marker pen that was again just on my bounce box. I had a small tube of toothpaste, replacement toothpaste. Same with sun cream. If you can get a small tube of toothpaste and a small tube of sun cream, good to have it in your spares box, because normally what would happen is you'll get into town and guess what? You can buy the big bottles about this big, which is utterly useless for a through hike. But so if you can find a small one, maybe buy two and shove another one in your spares box. Had a spare USB plug just in case I lost mine, or more commonly I forgot it in town. That's a good thing to have. Another spare DEET stick. Had a spare set of foldable reading glasses. Had a spare set of polarized sunglasses on standby in my bounce box. And I had a stick of what's called Body Glide. So again, if you suffer from chafing, that's good to have. Actually, just had it on standby. I had a tent pole splint, such for any reason I damaged my poles. Now I did damage my poles and actually had to get them replaced, but again I had this in my spares box, in my bounce box. Another thing I had, same with ibuprofen, when I mentioned before I had problems buying ibuprofen. I had problems buying even the basics, like this is one form of the electrolytes. There's lots of other types. Guess what? I had about 5 or 6 occasions where I just couldn't buy these. They were sold out. So again, is it easy to reach the plant trail? In theory. Practice, no. If you find stuff you like, if you're in a big store, buy a few extras, shove them in your bounce box. So what else? And then finally some of the I had a spare roll of duct tape. Now like most hikers, I had a roll of this wrapped around each of my trekking poles, but this was a spare set, a spare roll for in my bounce box if for any reason I ran out of duct tape. The other thing I had was on trail was all the spares for my trekking poles. Now you can get spare tips. Now this is a black diamond sort of extension tip, and then the ends with sort of titanium carbide tips that you can then replace on your trekking poles. And I also had the snow baskets again on standby, such I needed them through the Sierras. I also had my micro spikes. So this is my snow gear. I had my Katula micro spikes on standby, ready to go. I also had my ice axe. Now again, if you're going to use an ice axe or a whippet, whatever you're going to use, make sure you go on a training course on how to use it. These are lethal if you don't know how to use them. I settled on a whippet for personal reasons. I've said that in previous videos on my snow gear. If you're new to ice and snow traversing, buy an ice axe and go on a course. There's no point having this gear. There's no point having this gear if you don't know how to use it. It's actually more lethal. So yeah, get some practice. The other thing is I had my bear canister on standby, but that's it. So I will stop there. I'm sort of about to be interrupted because there's a group of hikers coming up behind me. So I'll stop there and speak to you soon. Hope this is useful.